Chair, council members, and participants, we are now live.
Good morning, everyone. This is a public hearing of the Committee on Appropriations regarding bills number 220-866, 220-867, 220-868, and 220-869. Before we begin this hearing, I want to recognize Mr. Josh Cohen to read a very important announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand that state law currently requires that the following announcement be made at the beginning of every remote public hearing as follows. Due to the current public health emergency, City Council committees are currently meeting remotely. We are using Microsoft Teams to make these remote hearings possible. Instructions for how the public may view instructions for how the public may view and offer the public testimony at public hearings of council committees are included in the public hearing notices that are published in the Daily News, Inquirer, and Legal Intelligencer prior to the hearings and can also be found on phlcouncil.com. Everyone who has been invited to the meeting to testify should be aware that this public hearing is being recorded. Because the hearing is public, participants and viewers have no reasonable expectation of privacy. By continuing to be in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. Additionally, prior to Councilmember Jones's recognizing members for the questions or comments they have for witnesses, I will note for the record at this time that we will use the chat feature available in Microsoft Teams to allow members to signify that they wish to be recognized. In order to comply with the Sunshine Act, the chat feature must only be used for this purpose. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. We will now call the roll, but will members who are in attendance say a few words so that your image can be captured on the screen. Mr. Cohen.
Councilmember Thomas.
Morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, colleagues. I'm present. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Councilmember O'Neill. Councilmember O.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, colleagues. I am present.
Member O, good morning.
Councilmember Gilmore Richardson.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, colleagues. I am present.
Thank you.
Vice Chairman Johnson.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, colleagues. Present.
Good
Chairman
morning.
Jones.
I am present. That establishes a quorum. At this time, what I'd like to propose is a brief half-hour recess in order to tie some loose ends together before we continue with this hearing. We will reconvene at 10:50. I'll give it that long, 10:50, and please bear with us and be patient, and we will reestablish this hearing at that time. Thank you all.
Mr. Chair, we are now live.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you for your patience and indulgence. This is a continuation of a public hearing for the Committee on Appropriations regarding bills number 220-866, 220-867, 220-868, and 220-869. And before we begin the hearing, I want to recognize Mr. Josh Cohen to read a very important announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand that state law currently requires that the following announcement be made at the beginning of every remote public hearing as follows. Due to the current public health emergency, City Council committees are currently meeting remotely. We are using Microsoft Teams to make these remote hearings possible. Instructions for how the public may view and offer public testimony at public hearings of council committees are included in the public hearing notices that are published in the Daily News, Inquirer, and Legal Intelligencer prior to the hearings, and also can be found on phlcouncil.com. Everyone who has been invited to the meeting to testify should be aware that this public hearing is being recorded. Because the hearing is public, participants and viewers have no reasonable expectation of privacy. By continuing to be in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. Additionally, prior to Councilman Jones recognizing members for the questions or comments they have for the witnesses, I will note for the record at this time that we will use the chat feature available in Microsoft Teams to allow members to signify that they wish to be recognized in order to comply with the Sunshine Act. The chat feature must only be used for this purpose. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen, and we will now proceed with roll call to establish a quorum, and will members who are present, please say it. Please say a few words so that your image is captured on the screen. Mr. Cohen.
Councilmember Thomas.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. I'm present.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Councilmember O'Neill.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Councilmember O.
Yes, I'm present. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Councilmember
much, sir.
Gilmore Richardson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and colleagues. I am present.
Vice Chairman Johnson.
Present. Good afternoon, colleagues.
Chairman Jones.
I am present, and good afternoon to all my colleagues, and thank you so much for your hard work and patience. A quorum has been established, and can you please read the titles of the bills, Mr. Cohen?
Yes. Bill number 220866, an ordinance amending Bill number 220284, entitled an ordinance to adopt a capital program for the six fiscal years 2023 through 2028 inclusive, by revising various appropriation amounts and totals to conform to amendments to the FY2023 Capital Budget Ordinance, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 220867, an ordinance amending Bill number 220285, entitled an ordinance to adopt a fiscal 2023 capital budget by revising various appropriation amounts and totals, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 220868, an ordinance authorizing transfers and appropriations for fiscal year 2022 from the general fund from certain or all city offices, departments, boards, and commissions. The Water Fund from certain or all city offices, departments, boards, and commissions. The Water Residual Fund from certain or all city offices, departments, boards, and commissions. The Grants Revenue Fund from certain or all city offices, departments, boards, and commissions. And the Aviation Fund from certain or all city offices, departments, boards, and commissions. To the General Fund, to certain or all city offices, departments, boards, and commissions. To the Water Fund, to certain or all city offices, departments, boards, and commissions. To the Water Residual Fund, to certain or all city office, department, boards, or commissions. And the Aviation Fund, to certain or all city office, department, boards, and commissions. And finally, Bill number 220869, an ordinance authorizing transfers and appropriations for fiscal year 2023 from the general fund, certain or all city offices, departments, boards, and commissions, the Water Fund, certain or all city offices, departments, boards, and commissions, and the Grants Revenue Fund, certain or all city offices, department, boards, and commissions, to the general fund, certain or all city offices, departments, boards, and commissions, the Water Fund, certain or all city offices, department, boards, and commissions, the Aviation Fund, certain or all city office, department, boards, and commissions, and the Grants Revenue Fund, certain or all city office, departments, boards, and commissions.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Before we start, I would like to say that I am truly grateful for the Appropriations Committee. They put in an extraordinary amount of work reading and dissecting the budget and making sure that the priorities that were set are actually achieved through the commitment of money. I want to also thank the administration for working with us on those priorities, trying to do checks and balances so that we safeguard the public's trust and make sure that we are accountable for every dollar, every tax dollar that we expend. So this process is a journey, and we're about to, hopefully, God willing, land this plane. So with that, can you, or any other members of the committee wish to make opening statements? Seeing none. Mr. Cohen, will you please read the first panel to testify?
The first panel is Marissa Waxman, Budget Director.
Ms. Waxman, how are you?
Good. How are you doing today?
I'm good, and thank you for your patience. Would you please state your name for the record and begin your testimony?
Certainly. I am Marissa Waxman, Budget Director. You have my full written testimony, but given the hour, I figured I would give an abbreviated version unless you prefer the long extended dance remix.
Feel free to abbreviate.
Great. Good morning, Chairperson Jones and members of the Appropriations Committee. I'm Marissa Waxman, Budget Director. I'm here this morning to testify in support of the FY22 year-end transfer ordinance, the FY23 mid-year transfer ordinance, and the FY23 capital mid-year transfer ordinance, and FY23 to 28 capital program mid-year transfer ordinance. You've also received written testimony from each department with a request in the transfer ordinances. While it's not unusual for there to be a fall transfer ordinance, the drivers of what we can and can't accomplish this year are new. Philadelphia ended FY22 with a higher fund balance than expected, but this reflects services that residents didn't receive as we struggled to fill positions and one-time spikes in volatile tax revenues. It remains our intentions to fill positions, but we are also in the position to immediately redeploy those one-time savings and one-time revenues to investments with immediate impact. Like all Philadelphians and all Americans, we're facing rising costs. The city's utility and fuel bills, prices paid for equipment, and many other expenditures are significantly higher than we planned when the budget was passed last spring. This transfer ordinance reallocates funds to ensure we can keep delivering services as planned and expands or creates reserve for operating and capital costs affected by inflation through the end of this fiscal year. It also makes funding available for areas where we had to pull back at the start of the pandemic, making up for reductions in capital spending and contributions to cultural institutions and other community organizations. We're also preparing for future economic deterioration as many economists predict an upcoming recession. The FY22 transfer ordinance already addresses shortfalls in the pension fund due to recent market performance. The FY23 mid-year transfer ordinance includes a $25 million deposit into the city's rainy day fund. We're just a few weeks away from kicking off the FY24 budget process, and the administration looks forward to continuing collaboration with Council to allocate our resources equitably and efficiently to improve conditions for all Philadelphians. Thanks for the opportunity to testify today, and I'd like to request a suspension of the rules so that this ordinance can be considered at the next session of Council. We're happy to answer any questions and have a number of folks available for you.
Thank you, Ms. Waxman, and thank you to the entire county administration for being available to the members of the Appropriation Commission committee if we have any particular questions. So we do recognize and appreciate that. A couple of short comments and questions. Number one, are you prepared to tell the public and put on the record the fund balance?
Certainly. The FY22 year-end fund balance that was recently published in our annual financial report was $779 million. As I referenced, that it was significantly higher than our earlier projections, while still significantly below the Government Finance Officers Association recommended level. The amount was driven by two things: dollars that went unspent because we had positions we couldn't fill, as well as unexpected receipts in two particularly volatile tax streams, our realty transfer tax and our business income and receipts tax. Yesterday, we published our quarterly city managers report with an updated FY23 fund balance. Again, it's only about half of what the GFOA recommends a city should have with a budget our size, and many of our peers do achieve that level, but it is above our earlier projection.
Second question, like the rest of the world, are we as a municipality experiencing inflation and supply chain issues that impact our budget?
Boy, are we. So we know inflation right now is over 8%. And in certain areas like construction, it's around 15%. Our capital budget is very sensitive to that. There are a number of areas where we struggle both with price increases and supply chain. For example, paper and trash bags have been tremendous. And you might think, oh, we're digital now, we don't need paper. But keep in mind that we still send out 500,000 water bills each month. And not everyone has access to e-billing and internet for financial transactions. And so it's important we continue to do that. The cost of a radio patrol car has gone up 86% since pre-pandemic. We are seeing incredibly lengthened lead times for some of our heavy equipment. Buying a fire truck or a trash compactor is now taking over 2 years. And so we need to be able, if we, anticipate a need anytime in the near future, and by near future, I mean like within the next couple of years, we need to be able to make sure that we are able to sort of lock in some prices and get in the queue for some of that specialized equipment. So across city government, we're also seeing it in things like court reporting. Hourly costs have gone up dramatically. And so this mid-year transfer ordinance in some ways targets the departments where we already know we have issues. We had a $1 million increase in the cost of after-school meals. And so, when faced with a choice between providing fewer meals or paying more, this transfer ordinance reallocates dollars. It also sets aside funds in an inflation reserve because we're not through the year yet. And we think that there will be more price increases that we'll need to address. And so in certain critical areas, we know that we need to keep providing services even as the costs rise.
So our inability to attract people to hire is a factor in the savings. Inflation is impacting our bottom line. So therefore, what can we do to mitigate both of those things at this point? I raised the issue of our procurement folk being able to lock in gasoline prices for a period of time, which thank goodness they did. But what else can we do and anticipate?
So some of the things that we're doing is increasing resources to our Office of Human Resources and police so that they can do more to attract and retain staff. And through our recent union contracts, we're introducing things, not only increased salaries, but also attraction and retention bonuses. So we're trying to make sure that folks know that Philadelphia is a great place to work. And in terms of the supply chain issues, you're absolutely right. We have a great team at the Energy Office working with Fleet to try and understand fuel markets and lock in certain prices while hedging against, any changes. Unfortunately, we're driven by a lot of things. The war in the Ukraine, how cold this winter is in the UK is going to determine how much we're paying for natural gas. I can't control British weather. But what we can do is make sure that financially we have the resiliency to weather these shocks. And so that's part of putting the deposits in the rainy day fund, making sure we have an adequate fund balance. So if things go sideways, it doesn't spell complete disaster, making sure we're investing in reserves for inflation, both for our operating budget and then particularly in the capital budget where we think the increases are going to be more dramatic.
Finally, our friends and colleagues in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania also have a surplus. Are we meeting regularly to see how we can do things like piggyback purchasing, do efficiencies and things of that nature to work with them while the fund balance is so high and their surplus so high?
Certainly. So we do both. One, we continue to work with the state to try and identify areas where, one of our mantras is if somebody else can pay for it, we'll let them, and we'll certainly encourage them to do so. And so, we are very interested in opportunities to bring additional state dollars to the city and meet with folks in Harrisburg and keep those lines of communication open. We're also able to do things, as you suggest, like piggyback on statewide contracts, make sure that we are taking advantage of economies of scale to get the best possible prices. And so, luckily, we have some experience in what to do when you don't have enough resources to do everything. This context is a bit different though. Right now, we unusually have a bit more cash for short time at our disposal. And so in some places, the challenge is money alone won't solve the problem. There simply aren't enough pieces of equipment or suppliers still on the market. But we continue to be very proactive to make sure we can get what we need.
I'm going to yield the mic at this time to my colleagues on the committee. Mr. Cohen, who's first up? Mr. Cohen, are you there?
I don't
Right.
see anybody in the chat.
Okay. Well, that goes to show that we did a lot of the work in advance.
Now I see Councilmember Richardson.
Member Richardson, look forward to your comments. Go ahead.
Yes, well, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And I just wanted to thank the administration for all of their hard work, and Marissa, Rob, and the entire team for all the behind the scenes work that happens before we get to this moment, and look forward to continuing to do that work in the future. For the record, I just wanted to get a couple things on the record relative to what you've already mentioned in your testimony, particularly around the rainy day fund. And you talked about the $210 million for pension liabilities based on the market, but also you talked about the contribution to ensure that we have additional dollars for out years of the 5 plan to prepare for any potential recession or economic downturn. And so for the record, if you could talk about how much exactly we're going to put in as a part of this particular bill. And then over the years, I would say probably since 2011, how many contributions have been made and how much they were, and what the thought process is for moving forward. I just wanted to get that on the record. And then secondly, I do have a question if there's anybody on from the Streets Department. I just got an email from my team. I just want to put something on the record while we're here.
Thank you, member.
Thank you,
Ms.
Mr. Chair. And thank you for your hard work and collaboration.
I was telling President Clark, every gift is not a gift until you look in the box. Ms. Waxman, would you respond to?
Certainly. Thanks so much for asking about the budget stabilization reserve. So the legislation before you right now includes a $25 million deposit into the rainy day fund. That is on top of, I believe, the about $41 million deposit that was in the approved version of the 5-year plan. So getting us to over $60 million this year. You had asked about the history of the rainy day fund and all of the deposits and all of the withdrawals. And it is an unfortunately slightly short story. Immediately before the pandemic, we were very proud to make our very first $34 million contribution into the rainy day fund. However, very shortly thereafter, with the dramatic revenue losses due to the pandemic, we withdrew that entire $34 million. So currently the balance of that account is $0. And this will now nearly double with the approval of this legislation, the most we've ever had in there. The 5-year plan also contemplates additional investments in the out years. Once we approve this legislation, we will update the 5-year plan eventually and get all of the new numbers for that.
Okay, that'll be great. I just wanted to get that on the record, recognizing that I have legislation pending around the budget stabilization reserve to ensure that we are, sort of meeting our target minimum balance contributions each year, recognizing that it's such a surplus at this point, but also recognizing that in the out years of the 5-year plan, there remains to be seen potential economic uncertainty that could really strap our ability to have cash flow on hand as a city. So I just wanted to get that on the record. And then again, secondly, I just had a quick question for Streets, because I literally just got an email since we've been on this hearing about a matter that we've been working on.
Good
Hi,
afternoon.
Councilmember.
Hi, how are
How
you?
are you?
Can
Good.
you state your name for the record?
Sure. I'm Chris Newman, Deputy Commissioner for Administration for the Streets Department. Good
Member-
afternoon.
Member Richardson, your question.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Chris, for your availability and for all your hard work. I just wanted to get on the record, we have a ton of constituent cases that we're dealing with, and I literally, like I said, since we've been on this hearing, received an email, wanted to get an update around the installation of speed cushions and the number of locations that are currently scheduled. And sort of what's the timeline around installation of speed cushions. My office is working on a constituent case, and I just wanted to get that update.
Okay, Councilmember, what I'll do is I'll talk to the Deputy Commissioner for Transportation, and we will get back to you as soon as we possibly can on that.
Okay, that'll be
specifically.
great. Yeah, I just want to know what the timeline is for the installation of the speed cushions and what the sort of the backlog is and how long that process takes.
Okay, will do.
Thank you.
You're
Could I
welcome.
ask Member Richardson to add to that, ask where we are on street lighting and alley lighting? Can you provide that to Member Richardson and she'll share it with all of us?
Yes, I will, Councilmember.
Thank you so very much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Member Richardson. You remind us all the time what we're really here for, right?
Yes,
So-
thank you very much.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Member Thomas. Member Thomas?
Councilman, I'm sorry. This is Councilman Thomas.
Yes. Please ask your question, sir.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Quick question. So I just wanted and we talked about this briefly, and I didn't get the final results. I'm sorry. Good afternoon, Marissa. Good afternoon to the entire panel. But I just want to get an explanation on the $2 million that goes to the Commerce Department, specifically looking at issues around Act 158 and the requirements for young people to graduate from high school. We introduced a resolution, and we plan on having that conversation, deeper conversation, but a brief explanation right now will definitely be appreciated.
Madam Commissioner, Commerce Director, I'm sorry.
That's fine. Good
Can
afternoon,
you state your
Chairman
name for the
Jones.
record?
Thank you. Yes, Ann Nadal, Commerce Director, and I'm joined also by Jessica Shapiro from the Office of Children and Families. We are working together to coordinate with the school district on Act 158. Councilman Thomas, to specifically answer your question regarding the budget request around Act 158, this is in an effort to help support the school district and stand up an infrastructure into which our graduating seniors, that may be as many as 5,000 students who need internship opportunities in order to graduate this coming June. And the monies would go towards employer training programs, student training programs, capacity building, power skills, marketing, and also staffing to be able to process all of these students, process certifications, process clearances. It's going to be very, very labor intensive, particularly in this first year, as we stand up this infrastructure with the school district. The goal here is to build something that will be not just for this year, but be a lasting infrastructure that the school district can then work off of and build to scale as ideally these internships start trickling throughout all of the high school years, not just the senior year, so that we are not scrambling for all of the seniors every year, and that we are able to pace and get kids through this particular requirement earlier in their high school time.
Thank you for the response, Director. And good afternoon to you and your entire team. What I would ask, because right now we have a lot of business to tend to as it relates to this appropriations transfer ordinance today, I would ask that you look out around this very issue. We want to begin to have a deeper conversation. We want to have a public conversation about what our plan is as it relates to the city of Philadelphia. We want to coordinate those efforts with the school district, and we would definitely want your office to be a part of the hearing so we can really do a deep dive, not just into the money that we're allocating today, but into the overall plan to make sure that no young person falls behind and every young person who has the credentials and the will to want to graduate from high school graduates from high school, and there are no operational or clerical errors that puts us in a position that restricts our children. So I wanted to get that explanation on the record today, and I'm hoping that we can have a deeper conversation when we have the hearing through the Education Committee around this particular issue.
Yes, absolutely. We will be happy to participate with the others in the administration and the school district. So thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you, Director, and thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate you, and thank you, everybody else.
Thank you so very much for that question. Are there any other questions from the committee members for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Mr. Cohen, who is the next witness to testify?
The next witness panel is Rochelle Bilal, Sheriff, and Larry Krasner, District Attorney, or a representative thereof.
Welcome, welcome. Sheriff Bilal, are you there? Sheriff Bilal?
One moment. She's coming right in. And while she's coming, good afternoon, Council.
Good afternoon. I returned your call, sir.
I know you did. And then when I tried to get with you, you got caught up in the city's business. I appreciate you.
There you go. All right.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Look, I've been here since like 7:30 in the morning. It's supposed to say 9:30 a.m. and I'm still on morning time. So, but good afternoon.
Welcome. State your name for the record, Sheriff. And begin your testimony.
Good morning, Chairperson Curtis Jones and members of the Appropriation Committee. I'm Rochelle Bilal, Sheriff for the City and County of Philadelphia. You can't see me, but I am testifying in support of Sheriff's Department General Fund request of $1,419,111 in Class 100 to be fully funded payroll costs due to a structural shortfall. This amount is partially offset by an internal departmental transfer of $24,293. I'm still on at morning time. We are consistently underfunded in this area for overtime and terminal leave payments, which create the overages in our Class 100. I have also requested increases for Class 200 in the amount of $2,136,000 and Class 300 in the amount of $1,364,000 to cover acquisition of software technologies and IT staff, as I am required to build my own IT center to support daily operations of our office. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. If you have any further concerns or questions, we are happy here to answer any concerns. I have my staff here to be able to answer any.
So thank you for your testimony. Are there members of the committee that have questions? If not, I will ask. So when you say a structural deficit, are you talking about underfunding annually? That doesn't address overtime?
Yes, sir. This is Patrick Lee, the Sheriff CFO. Yes, sir. That would be correct. We've looked at the budgets over the last several years since I've arrived, and there were consistent shortfalls that have been requested but never funded.
And if I heard you correctly, what is that? There were two figures given out. One was to be addressed through an internal transfer. Tell me what, if you accomplish that internal transfer, what is the amount outstanding that you are requesting?
Well, if the departmental transfer that was quoted, which was $1,024,239, if that's handled, then that would clear out some of the deficit. but it still doesn't cover the shortfall in the other classes. The majority of the information that we receive information on regarding funding is always class 100. It's not about our operational requirements, which are in class 2, 3, and 400. When we submit those justifications and clearly identify the shortfalls, it limits us in our ability to contract, to acquire timely acquisition of supplies for our officers and the needed supplies for the civilian staff to support them. And this would be subsequent to the ordinances that we've submitted information to date.
Okay. Chair recognizes Member Thomas.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to just take a moment to commend, and I don't see him, but I think our sheriff is a part of this conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm on the side.
There you go. I just wanted to take a minute to commend our sheriff and the sheriff's department. And I just want to say why. I don't have a question for them because we've met with them multiple times leading up to the course of this process. And I support the sheriff's effort to provide adequate funding, adequate dollars and adequate payment to her staff, as well as the resources that she needs to do the work. At the end of the day, based on the crime and the violence that we're seeing in the city of Philadelphia, myself personally, other council members, and people across the city in general, we're calling on the sheriff's office to do things that I don't think that they've ever had to do before. And at the end of the day, if we're giving dollars to all these other departments as it relates to addressing inflation and some other issues that we're facing around crime, the sheriff's office should be no different than that. I know that we don't have all the resources right now to be able to take care of all of their needs, but when we revisit this conversation next year and we go into budget negotiations, I just really want to push for the sheriff's office to get the resources and the support that they need to be able to adequately pay their staff and to make sure that they have all the supplies and the resources to be able to best do their job. Looking at their numbers and listening to the deficit that the current sheriff inherited, as well as other conflicts and issues that she's been trying to address, we owe it to the sheriff and her team to put them in a position to be able to effectively do their job and not force them to continue to operate on this shoestring budget. So, Mr. Chair, you know, we wear a lot of different hats and work in a lot of different committees, and you know firsthand when we were trying to provide supports for some of our workers and some of our young people that were facing a totally another issue. The sheriff and her team were there. They were ready to step up and do whatever we needed to make sure that the citizens of Philadelphia were best served. So I just wanted to add that support out there to the sheriff's testimony that was already submitted. And I want us as a council body to continue to be committed to work with the administration to get them the resources that they need so they can effectively do their job. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you to the sheriff and your entire team for all you do. We very much appreciate you.
Thank you, Member Thomas. And I concur with your comments. You don't have to look far, just look over your shoulder in any council hearing. And in our chambers, they're there guarding us. You don't have to look far when you go out into the community. I think without fear of successful contradiction, their department is the most active I've ever experienced it. So to whom much is expected, something should be given. And so what I'd like to do as chair of public safety is introduce a resolution to look at this in depth. I don't think we can take that deep dive in this hearing, but my commitment to the sheriff department is to take a look at that and find the resources, as Member Thomas said, to make sure that you are whole, not always in a deficit position.
Thank you, Councilman Chairman. Thank you, Councilman Isaiah Thomas. We do appreciate that here.
So are there any other questions from members of the committee for the sheriff? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony, Madam Sheriff.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Cohen, who is next to testify?
The district attorney's office.
Mr. G. Lamar Stewart,
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
hardest working man in government. How are you today?
Thank you for that compliment, sir. Just trying to keep up. Good morning to you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to members of the Appropriations Committee. My name is G. Lamar Stewart. I am Chief of Community Engagement at the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office. I'm joined today by two of my colleagues, one ADA Joanne Pescator, who is the Chief of the DAO's Homicide and Non-Fatal Shootings Unit, and ADA Mike Lee. With your permission, Mr. Chair, I'll just like to read onto the record our written testimony on behalf of DA Krasner, who was unable to be here today as he is in a hearing down in federal court.
Please proceed.
Also, with your permission, just brief remarks after my after the written testimony by ADA Joanne Pescator.
Please proceed.
I'm testifying in support of the District Attorney's Office General Fund request of $7,250,000 in Class 100 supplemental budget funding to increase resources for prosecuting gun violence. This is in addition to the $569,771 in Class 100 needed to fully fund our current payroll charges due to structural shortfall, partially offset by an internal departmental transfer of $186,734 as previously requested. Additionally, the District Attorney's Office is requesting $500,000 for Victim and Witness Relocation Fund. The District Attorney's Office is committed to increasing resources to the prosecution of gun violence from arraignment through appeal. We are equally committed to the professional development and well-being of DAO personnel, especially those who prosecute the traumatic aftermath of gun violence. Emphasizing caseload reduction and an important component to our long-term retention strategies. Lower caseloads will allow for our assistant district attorneys to have more time to prepare for litigation, develop and support victims and witnesses. Equally important, it will allow our ADAs to have better balance between trauma of prosecuting gun violence and the joy of living in Philadelphia. This request combines additional hires for ADAs, intelligence analysts, data lab analysts, community engagement liaisons, paralegals, and Philadelphia County detectives. These personnel will comprise the strategic expansion of gun violence prosecution. Beginning the Homicide Non-Fatal Shootings Unit, the DAO will assign more ADAs to reduce the current caseload on the unit and to increase resources for each case. Simply having more time through efficient technology and fewer cases will have a large impact case outcome by letting ADAs resolve discovery issues faster and litigate more pre-trial motions. Furthermore, ADAs will be dedicated to bail revocations. These ADAs will file motions to revoke and handle bail revocation hearings and defendants charged with firearm-related offenses who have pending criminal matters in the city of Philadelphia. Additionally, the DAO will create a carjacking enforcement unit to focus on vigorously prosecuting car theft, theft from auto, and carjacking cases, including investigation of the illegal sale of stolen vehicles and parts. Related to increasing investigations, the DAO will expand wiretap operations through additional ADAs and certified law enforcement personnel. This expansion will support existing efforts to identify individuals and/or groups engaged in gun violence or illegal transfer or sale of firearms. The DAO would like to increase salaries by $10,000 for each ADA assigned to the Homicide Non-Fatal Shootings Unit, Gun Violence Task Force, Major Trials Unit, Juvenile Unit, and the newly formed Carjacking Unit. In addition to the build out of the existing and new units that handle gun violence, the DAO is committed to relaunching the Gun Crime Strategies and Prevention Collaborative. Originally launched on June 1st, 2020, the DAO assigned 12 assistant district attorneys to PPD's 6 detective divisions and the Shooting Investigation Group to work collaboratively with investigators to identify, investigate, and prosecute group-related shootings. The DAO's intelligence unit and grant-funded data lab provided support to this initiative. Additionally, the DAO's community engagement unit served as a conduit between the community and prosecutors to ensure the voices and perspectives of victims and residents were prioritized. Due to staffing attrition and other factors during the pandemic, this program was temporarily suspended. With the funding support of City Council, the DAO will reinstitute the Gun Crime Strategies and Prevention Collaborative. The assigned ADAs to the Gun Crime Strategies and Prevention Collaborative would work collaboratively with PPD's Shooting Investigation Group, focusing their focus on group-related non-fatal shooting investigations and prosecution. The DAO is seeking an appropriate increase in funding in support of the DAO's Victim Witness Relocation Program. Those funds should come directly to the DAO. The DAO currently receives $260,000 annually from the Philadelphia City Council via the Philadelphia Managing Director's Office. The PA Attorney General's Office has a budget of $1.5 million for the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. However, the state has very strict guidelines for relocation, and the DAO often relies on our city relocation resources to prioritize the safety of witnesses, victims, families, and survivors who don't qualify for state funding. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. And if you have any further questions or concerns, we're happy to answer them. With that said, I'd like to pass it off to my colleague, ADA Joanne Pescator.
Please feel free. Please state your name for the record and begin your testimony. Good to see you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chairman Jones. It's very nice to see you again as well as your colleagues. And I want to first tell you I'm Joanne Pescator. I am the chief of the Homicide Non-Fatal Shooting Unit. I have been an assistant district attorney for 33 years. I reside in your district, Councilman Kenyatta Johnson. I'm a South Philadelphia resident, St. Gregory High School graduate. And I also want to thank Catherine Gilmore Richardson, Councilwoman, for attending in the past couple weeks, as well as Councilman Isaiah Thomas, and other members of City Council. We have met with you. We have showed you what we can do. You have met a lot of us and seen the work that we are currently doing in the Homicide Non-Fatal Shooting Unit. My DAs work diligently and very hard. They put in a lot of hours. I have a lot of young ADAs with not a whole lot of experience, but they get experience every single day. I am here myself at 6 a.m. and I stay till 6 p.m. I am available to homicide detectives and other detectives in the city of Philadelphia 24 hours a day. We collaborate every single day with the PPD. We work as hard as we can to bring these jobs in. We work with our families, survivors, their families, relocation, anything that we can to bring a case in and to get justice for these victims, we do. If you have any questions for me, I'm always available. I've been on many phone calls with you, with Mr. G. Lamar Stewart, about victims and their families. Any questions they have, I'm always available to answer.
I have a question. Who is the ADA that we met with, the young lady? That,
Christian Wynn.
Say it again.
Christian Wynn.
Yeah, I want her name on the record. and she knows why.
She resides in your district, Councilmember.
Yeah, she reminded me. I just want to thank you guys for the work you do. And often, it has gotten so, I don't want to call it, I guess I'm going to call it what it is, bad, that when I see your name, G. Lamar, or I see District Attorney Krasner in my phone, I get agita. And every now and then, I think you should just call me to say, how you doing? Because I'm beginning to get a Pavlovian response to seeing your name. Because it's usually associated with something bad. And it's a part of the work, I get it. But what I do appreciate is that you let us know what is going on in advance so that we're not stunned by constituents saying what's going on. And so I do appreciate that. Second part of it is that most of the members, and in particular, Member Johnson, carried your water really well.
Thank you.
And said to us as a committee that they're on the front line every day. And if we're saying we want them to increase closure rates and we want them to have more success in their prosecutions, then we have to arm them with the tools. Now, you're never going to get everything you want, but we hear you, and we're going to make sure, particularly some of your underpaid ADAs that are there, get smaller caseloads. We want to, so that they can focus a little more on what they do. But one of the things that jumped out at us was the carjacking unit. And, you don't have to wait long before you hear about another case after case. And even elected officials get carjacked. The congresswoman was carjacked. And I see her every now and then And I feel so bad that she went through that. But what I'm telling you in your department, on the record, for the record, that this committee will not ask you to make bricks without straw.
Thank you.
We will not do that. And so we are in part, stepping up to the plate to make sure that some of those resources get to you. Are there any other members of the committee that wish to be recognized for this panel?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just want to echo your sentiments, particularly around the work that Joanne Pescator is doing specifically around the issue of this gun violence, right? I mean, and I've said this over and over again, there is no other more important issue that we need to wrap our arms around and work together, specifically in the issue of gun violence, because it's consistent. I think even while we've been working on this issue, Councilman Jones, something I got alert at Overbrook High School.
Yep.
There's a possibility of shots being fired in the school. And so this is a very, very consistent issue that we have to address, because if our neighborhoods aren't safe, if our youth aren't safe, then a lot of work that we're going to be doing is for naught. So I thank you and your team for stepping up to the plate. G. Lamar Stewart, again, I'm where Councilman Curtis Jones is. You always giving us a call when something happens in our district. We already know when we see you on our phone that, okay, something happened. Now we got to get prepared to address the issue, to console the family and see how we need to respond. So to you and your team and the DAs that are out there that are working, we want to continue to make sure that we're being supportive of your efforts. And also, we did have a frank discussion about monitoring around results, right? And looking at, okay, separate from the meetings that we're having and initiatives that we're putting forward, how do we also monitor to make sure we're engaging the result and hitting the target in terms of reducing the level of gun violence that we're seeing here in the city of Philadelphia? We know it's not all the district attorney's office responsibility. We know the police department has a part to play. The courts have a part to play. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the DA's office is the top law enforcement agency here in the city of Philadelphia. And so we want to be supportive of those efforts as a partner, but making sure that we're getting to the bottom of addressing the issue of gun violence and carjackings as well. And you can't do that with your hands tied behind your back. So thank you for your hard work and your dedication.
Well said, Member Johnson. We don't want you to make bricks without straw, but we do want the bricks.
Certainly.
All right.
Certainly understood. Thank you, Chairman.
All right. Are there any other questions for this panel? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Mr. Chair.
Madam?
Yes, I apologize. I just could not get the chat working quickly enough, but I wanted to also echo the sentiments of my colleague, Councilmember Johnson, and you, Mr. Chair, and sort of the discussions that we've had as a committee. We do, and I personally appreciate the opportunity to meet with the District Attorney's Office regarding some of the more challenging aspects of the work, particularly around the caseload for some of the ADAs, and we have some just superstar ADAs over in your office that we were able to meet with, and particularly around the carjacking unit, and also getting a handle on this gun violence issue. There is no more important issue in this city currently than getting a handle on public safety. And so we are doing this in anticipation of continued communication and conversation around results in this area. And we look forward to the continued work product and delivering on behalf of the people we serve here in the city of Philadelphia. There's no more important issue than that of public safety. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I also, too, want to thank G. Lamar Stewart especially, and I've said this on the record in council session, I will say it again at this hearing. He is a superstar. We can always count on him to reach out to us, to be there with us in the most challenging moments that we have to deal with our families and community members, and calls that you just do not want to either receive or have to make. And so I just wanted to say thank you, because it is because of you and the relationships that we all have with you and the trust we have in you that we are at this moment. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Well said, member. Well
Thank you,
said.
Councilmember.
Thank you guys for your testimony.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Thank you for the support through this funding request. And thank you to the rest of the committee.
You're welcome. Mr. Cohen.
Yes,
who
sir. We have
next to testify.
two members of the public who wish to testify that need to be connected.
Okay, do we need a break to get them connected, or are we good to go?
Council support.
Modesto?
We do not need a break, Mr. Chair. We are going to call them in now.
Okay,
Thank
we
you.
appreciate you. I want to take this time to thank the committee members for their work and your attention to detail about the priority of the issues in front of us. So thank you.
You're welcome, Mr. Chairman.
It was a pleasure talking to you, sir.
Okay, we do have one public comment participant on, Mr. Chair.
Who do we have, Modesto?
Hello, this is Gail Blackwell.
Mrs.
Ms.
Black.
Blackwell? Good
Yes,
afternoon.
this is Blackwell. Good afternoon, council members.
All right. You state your name and then please begin your testimony.
Good afternoon, this is Gail Blackwell, a longtime Philadelphia resident and a landlord. So I'm I'm concerned. I don't know if you guys are aware about the wall that fell down on Jefferson Street, the retaining wall behind the houses. We want to establish some kind of fund. We were asking the city to establish a fund of $1.5 million for any problems that will go unforeseen problems that could possibly linger after the wall has been repaired. I know I'm having issues, and I've spoken to a couple of my other neighbors, and there's issues. We want something to be in place after the wall has been reconstructed and built. We want to ensure that, you know, there's funding available so that if we have other issues. Like I said, my fire escape is down. It's a shared fire escape, along with, there's a lot of debris back there. I don't know the impact or damage it's doing to the property. I have vegetation that's still, although they did clean up some of it, it's still a lot of it that's hanging over my property. Therefore, it's clogging up my gutters and it's causing roof problems for me. We've been waiting almost 2 years to have any work done back there. And it's probably been longer than that. I'm hearing that this actually part of the wall fell down in 1990, in the 90s. And I do remember when I purchased the property, I received a letter in 2010 saying that someone would come back in and do an assessment, and it was never done. And then I hear there was funding again in 2015, and it was never done. So the funding has always seemed to be in place, but when it's time to do something or action needs to take place, nothing ever gets done, or the funding is redirected to another project in the city. I think we've been waiting long enough, and it's been almost 2 years. Christmas Day will be 2 years since that wall has fell down. Hello?
I'm here, Ms. Blackwell.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just a concerned citizen, and I've been a resident, a long-time resident, and landlord, and this has really have impacted me financially. I can't rent. I can't do anything. I do have one tenant there, but I can't rent the second floor. I can't get my license. It's a lot of things that you guys are not seeing and aware of how this has impacted us, and it's a financial blow. It's a big financial blow. It's a big financial blow. And then with the city now, you know, the refuse has gone up, the taxes have gone up, but yet I got a tenant in there, and if at any moment she decides not to pay, then I have no income, and I still have a mortgage on this property. You have people that are just leaving their homes because there's nothing they can do. Their hands are essentially tied. You can't refinance. You can't do anything with these properties because of the liens that's been placed on them. I need you guys to really understand that it is really a lot. It's physically a lot and mentally a lot on us. We do not have the means to do anything financially. If you can't take out a loan or refinance in the hottest market there was, what can we do? Where are we going to get the funding to do these repairs that you guys are stating that we do or needs to be done? That's why we need to ensure that there's a fund in place. When the wall is erected and things have been taken care of, I don't know the impact of how this is going to impact my property, and I'm quite sure others don't know either. You're talking about putting the fire escape back up. That costs money. Now I have to get a roof. Now my gutters are clogged up. I got water coming in the property. These properties are already old, and I can't do any maintenance to them. And if I do, I'm just wasting money because the other stuff needs to be done before I can do any of this. It has taken a toll on me financially, and it is a big toll. I'm not talking about a couple $1,000s. I'm talking more thousands upon thousands of dollars. I've lost in rental income, and along with the repairs that go along with keeping this place up. Not only that, the concern that I have a tenant in the first floor who has a family and who wants to be dealing with infestation of rats and mice and everything because of what was going on in that backyard back there. The guy next door to me said that he was out there and he cut his face on a fire escape because it's hanging so low. It's just there.
Thank you for your patience, Ms. Blackwell. We'll handle it. All right?
I'm sorry?
I said thank you for your continued patience, and we are aware of that problem. All right?
Well, thank you for hearing me out. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, just for background purposes to my colleagues and those who are listening, a couple of years ago, we put money away for retaining walls, alleys, and the like. Jefferson Street between 62nd and 63rd is the first project that we are funding for, and it's estimated to be about $1 million. Easy. So that fund, we're going to have to replenish because it's not going to go very far with the high cost of these walls. In addition, we're struggling through the fact that these retaining walls are in effect the responsibility of the homeowners. But when you think about it, if we're talking about being able to have public safety and people being able to leave their homes in case of fire, we cannot ignore this increasing citywide problem. So we're trying to address it. In that block, there might be, between the two blocks, it's over 100 houses. And L&I has been working painstakingly to go get signatures from people to be able to get easements, to be able to go over their property, to be able to begin the repairs on these walls. So Ms. Blackwell is absolutely correct in the fact that in the interim of this, she has a rental property that she can't rent. And we have to move faster to be able to remediate these conditions so that she doesn't go bankrupt waiting on us. So we appreciate her comments. We are going to diligently try to address them. And we thank her. And I like the idea, and I heard it, that there should be a residual amount of money put aside just in case there is some damage that might be done in the remediation and building of these walls. So thank you again, Ms. Blackwell.
Thank you for hearing me out, Councilman.
All right.
Mr. Chair, it's Councilman
Yes.
O'Neill. I have
Yes,
an
Member
important
O'Neill.
meeting that I have to go to in less than 5 minutes.
All right, we
And
need to
no,
move
if I
this
can
along.
if I can just leave my vote, I think it would be quicker. I leave my vote in favor of all motions and all the bills.
Thank you so much,
Okay.
Mr.
Okay, I
Member
appreciate it.
O'Neill. We will duly note.
Thanks for the great job you did on this.
Thank you for your help. All right, Mr. Cohen, where are we at?
Thank you.
Are there any other people to testify on these bills? Mr. Cohen?
There was a second public witness. I don't know if they're connected or they're gone. If
They were
then-
not connected.
Then we can move on.
Okay. Are there any other people to testify on this or these bills? Hearing none, this concludes our public hearing. We will then open our public meeting to decide on these matters and these bills. Thank you all for your patience, the witnesses and the people who testified and those who hung around for questioning. As you disconnect, we appreciate you and the work that you do. And we will begin our public meeting shortly as you disconnect. So again, this concludes the public hearing of the Committee on Appropriations. We will now open the public meeting of the Committee on Appropriations to deal with the aforementioned bills. Mr. Cohen, will you please call the attendance?
Councilmember Thomas,
Present.
Councilmember O'Neill, leaving the meeting already. Councilmember O,
Present.
Councilmember Gilmore Richardson,
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and colleagues. I am present.
Vice Chairman Johnson,
Present.
and Chairman Jones.
Present, this allows us to establish our meeting. We have a quorum. And at this point, the chair recognizes Councilmember Johnson to deal with the amendment to bill number 220869.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I offer an amendment to bill number 220869. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of the committee. I move the adoption of the amendment.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded to the amendment to bill number 220869. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the bill amendment is adopted. Chair again recognizes Councilmember Johnson for a motion on all of the following bills. 220866, 220867, 220868, and 220869. Chair recognizes Member Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that bills numbers 220866, 220867, 220866, and bill number 220869 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded that the aforementioned bills be moved from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to allow next reading at our next session of council. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, ayes have it. Bills are moved out of the committee with a favorable recommendation. And this concludes the public meeting. Are there any comments from members of the committee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for running a great meeting. And thank you for, working out with the members the details regarding how we came out with this final package. So very rewarding process. Thank you. Good job.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your participation and advocacy for a number of those departments. Member Gilmore Richardson, did you want to say something?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much for all of your hard work on this entire hearing and process. Thank you very much.
I would only say that equal doesn't mean equality. And that is, I'm gonna hashtag that, I'm gonna get a shirt made. And that is definitely your quote. Thank you so much for your contributions. There being any more comments, seeing none, this concludes the business of the Committee on Appropriations. Thank you all.
Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate you.